Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens, members of the media, and all Chatham County residents. As you know, my name is Shalina Cook-Jones, and I am proud to serve as your Chatham County District Attorney. I want to thank you all for being here today. While all cases that are assigned to our office are important and worthy of significance to us, there are certain cases that take place in our community that garner more attention than others and that generate more requests from the public. And in those instances, we believe it's our duty to update the public on the status of the case to the extent that we are allowed to do so by law. And that is why I'm calling you here today to discuss the matter of State versus Ernest J. Ferguson, Jr. Mr. Ferguson, who was employed by the Savannah Chatham Police Department on June 24th of 2022, is charged with the murder and shooting death of 31-year-old Saudi Lee. Today, a grand jury reviewed the evidence and testimony of several witnesses at length and found that there was sufficient grounds to believe that the victim, Mr. Lee, who had been shot in the back 4 times, was shot and killed after being unlawfully stopped, detained, and interrogated by defendant Ferguson, and that shooting caused his death. The grand jury true-billed the indictment in its totality, effectively charging defendant Ferguson with 3 counts of felony murder, as well as 2 counts of making a false statement during the course of a criminal investigation. This indictment comes after a 2-year investigation by attorneys and prosecutors in this office, investigators in this office, and members of the GBI and others who ought to be commended for their hard work and focus in preparing this case for grand jury today. Decisions like these are never easy and are hard to make, and they must be made with the utmost care and expertise. Our office has a dual responsibility to both trust and cultivate good working relationships with our law enforcement partners, which happens about 99% of the time. But we also have an equal duty to ensure that those who violate the law and betray the public trust while promising to serve and protect are treated like everyone else under the law, and that they are not beyond the reach of accountability. I'm sure that this matter will generate a lot of questions, comments, concerns, and speculation perhaps throughout the community. And let me explain to you what the DA's responsibility is with respect to updating the public on the status of cases, because sometimes that's something many people might not understand. Although we endeavor to be as transparent as possible about the business of this office, prosecutors like myself and Mr. Burnham and Mr. DeBlasis and every other prosecutor assigned to this office, we are bound by ethical rules from making public statements and offering commentary in the media that will unfairly disadvantage the defendant or compromise our ability to have a fair trial in this county, so that defendant Ferguson can stand trial before a jury of his peers. That means you, the citizens, and anyone who might be selected to hear this case. It's our goal, our job, and our duty to preserve the evidence in these most important cases so that that happens without the taint of unfair bias. That's a duty that we take seriously. This means that our office is prohibited from releasing evidence, information, or commentary about this case until it is resolved. And we have every intention of complying with the law in the execution of our duties. It goes without saying that defendant Ferguson, like every other defendant who's charged in Chatham County, is entitled to have a trial to be tried by a jury of his peers and be tried in a justice system that finds he is innocent until he is proven guilty in a court of law. A copy of the indictment that I've referenced is available and is a matter of public record. It can be retrieved from the Superior Court Clerk's office. And of course, and always, we extend our most sincere condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Mr. Saudi Lee, and to those he leaves behind to cherish his memory. That concludes our statement. Any questions?
Truth Advocate with the Savannah Morning News. Are you going to release the body camera footage? Is that something you plan on doing? And has the family seen the body camera footage of the incident? Family of the victim.
To my knowledge, well, let me answer the first question first. We consider the body cam footage to be a critical piece of evidence in this case. As I've just said, we do not intend and are bound by law, we believe, from releasing that body cam footage to the public at this time. That is not to say that that footage might not be obtained from other government offices. You won't be able to get it from our office as long as this criminal investigation and case is pending. As to his family, I am not sure if they've seen that. That would probably be a question for their private counsel and civil attorneys.
Is that something you plan on showing the family, or?
At this time, my goal and my office's goal is to be as cooperative as possible with the victims of the Saudi Lee family. And should they make such a request to my office, I will consider it at that time.
Yeah, Dave Williams with WJCL. I got a couple of questions I would just ask, and then you can answer them. First question, following up on the family, did you have you talked to the family since the indictment had been in, or I'm talking about the victim's family, during this process? And the second thing is, understand that Mr. Ferguson is currently living in Texas or something. What is the process now as far as extradition or arresting him or bringing him back to Savannah or anything like that?
It's always good to ask me one question at a time. So taking your first question first, you asked two questions. Have we interacted with the victim's family during the process, and have we notified them since the indictment came down? The answer to both questions is yes. Our office has been in contact with the victim, with the family members of Mr. Saudi Lee, and we have made efforts to contact them to inform them of the grand jury's decision, which just came down this afternoon. As to your second question and Mr. Ferguson's whereabouts, once the indictment is returned, a warrant will issue on these charges, and we presume that he'll be picked up. We don't know when. We understand that he does have an attorney. My hope is that he and his attorney will cooperate with our team and with law enforcement so that he can be turned in and answer for these charges.
Madam DA, something that has come up in the public sphere of this case is the timeline of all of this. This is an incident that took place over 2 years ago. So can you talk about the timeline of when your office received the case file from the GBI and why it took from that time to now to get a grand jury indictment here in this case?
Well, contrary to popular belief, cases involving officers, shootings, and homicides are some of the most difficult cases to both investigate and prosecute, partly because there are a lot of other agencies that are involved, like the Officers Employment Agency, who typically does an IA investigation, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. We often check with coroner's offices to establish the cause of death. So these cases take a while to prosecute, and this one did. In fact, as it relates to this particular case, we just received information as recent as 2 weeks ago that we needed in order to move forward with this indictment from the defendant's former employer, Savannah Police Department. And so there are a lot of factors and considerations that go into these cases, but I do want to remind the public that there is no statute of limitations on a homicide, okay? And so, as is often said, justice delayed is not justice denied.
Christine from USAV, do you believe this indictment is something that will prevent further police misconduct possibly going forward?
We hope that that would be the case. Obviously, I our main goal in making sure that we indict this case, these kinds of cases, is that we need to preserve the public integrity. And so the real message behind this is that anyone who serves in public office and takes an oath to represent the people, we consider those people, when it comes to criminal allegations, as regular members of the public, and it's important for us to send the message that they are not outside the law. As it relates to police misconduct, it's certainly our hope, and it's been my experience, frankly, that the vast majority of officers that we deal with in this office, they keep their oath. They're good officers. They don't get paid enough to do the job that they do, and we support their work, because without them and them putting their lives on the line each and every day, there's no way we could bring these cases to justice. And the vast majority of the people, men and women in blue that we work with, do a stellar and outstanding job, not just with SPD, but with all of the other law enforcement offices and agencies here in our great county. What happens with future police misconduct is really up to law enforcement. That's a matter of training. It's a matter of resources. And those kinds of questions are outside of our control. But what we can do, we do. And that is to make sure that any violations of the law are brought to justice.
Madam DA, you talked about the body cam as being a crucial piece of evidence in this case. Can you discuss maybe some of the other elements shown to the grand jury that led to this indictment?
I can see why that would be a question of interest to you. The grand jury process is a secret proceeding. Both the evidence that is shared with the grand jury as well as their deliberations. It would be a violation of the law for me to go into what was presented to them and to comment on any further evidence that either was shown to the grand jury or that will be used in the prosecution of this case. Okay. No further questions? That concludes my statement. Thank you, everyone, for coming out.